I never thought I'd lose everything, but my fight against a 200M downfall revealed resilience. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The room spun around me, my breath caught in my throat like a bitter pill. I sat there, trembling hands wrapped around my phone, heart racing like a runaway train. News flashed across the screen, a financial nightmare unfurling in real time. Assets evaporating. Trust crumbling. With each notification, my world imploded, leaving behind shadows of what once was. Mom had always said, "You can't lose what you don't have." But I had so much friends supporting me, a team I believed in, dreams stitched together with hope. And now? All gone. The faces that had once lit up my life faded into a blur of disbelief and anger. My best friend, Jake, stood just outside my door, his worried eyes revealing the fear he dared not express. "You okay?" he whispered, but I could see the doubt dancing in his mind. Was I okay? Could anyone be? I had built my empire, a promising startup with dreams as big as the sky. Late nights fueled by caffeine, brainstorming sessions filled with laughter and ambition. We were going to change the world. Yet, in a matter of hours, a simple miscalculation turned everything upside down. Arguments about money echoed through my mind like a haunting melody. It felt surreal, a dark comedy where I was the punchline, and the laughter grew louder with each passing moment that I could almost hear the industry turning its back on me, voices whispering, fingers pointing, suspicion hanging thick in the air. The betrayal cut deep. I felt small, invisible, like a ghost wandering in my own life. Press releases painted a grotesque image of failure. Shadows loomed larger. And still, beneath the chaos, flickers of resilience sparked inside me. I had fought for every inch. Did I really want this to be my end? The air heavy with silence, I closed my eyes and took a breath. My heart beat in rhythm with hope, an unwavering pulse that called me forward. I had to dig deep, claw my way back to the surface. But as I opened my eyes, a chilling realization settled in my chest. What if failure wasn't the end? What if it was just the beginning? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The following days enveloped me in a haze of confusion and despair. The vibrant city, once bursting with life and possibility, wore a sterile mask of indifference as I navigated through it, the echoes of laughter now muted. I avoided eye contact, fearing the pity that lay behind the gazes of those I passed. My phone buzzed with alerts from investors and clients, messages suffused with disappointment and anger. I longed to respond, to engage, to try and salvage what little was left, but I felt like a character in a play whose script had been ripped apart. Jake refused to leave my side, a constant presence that both comforted and chafed. We'd sit in my dim apartment, surrounded by boxes of half-packed dreams. Each box a reminder of failed meetings, abandoned projects, and the jubilant nights of brainstorming sessions now rendered absurd. "It will get better," he insisted, his voice a fragile thread of hope. But the ichor of doubt clung to my thoughts. What if this was my new normal? A descent into quieter shadows. One stormy evening, after a day filled with fruitless calls and increasingly harsh messages, I wandered into the nearest cafe, letting the familiar scent of coffee wrap around me like a warm blanket. It was a place where I had once hosted pitch meetings, a haven alive with murmurs and laughter. The barista, Amelia, waved cheerfully when she saw me, her smile as radiant as the summer sun. "Hey there. You haven't been in for a while. How's everything going?" she asked, her concern genuine. My heart wavered. It was a small gesture, yet it carried weight. "It's a struggle," I finally managed, my voice cracking under the weight of the truth. In that moment, I realized how little anyone knew of my predicament. "Sometimes storms bring the brightest rainbows afterwards," she said, handing me a warm cup, her gaze unwavering. Take it one day at a time. It was a simple sentiment, but it kindled a flicker of warmth inside me, allowing me to see that even in the depths of despair, there were glimmers of light woven into everyday life. The kindness from a stranger who didn't just see my failure. As the days turned into weeks, I threw myself into small-scale initiatives, reaching out to local businesses that had once been acquaintances, sharing my skills where I could. I designed branding for a budding baker and created social media strategies for an artisan craftsman. It felt almost cathartic, helping others, even as I struggled to help myself. With every connection made and each unemployed moment filled, I felt my sense of agency returning, if only a little. Then, just as I began to uncover threads of purpose, tragedy struck again. Late one night, as I was sifting through notifications, a sudden message from the heart almost knocked the wind out of me. It was from a former mentor, someone I had long respected and admired. I heard what's happened, and I wanted to let you know I have some valuable insights to share, it read, followed by a meeting request for the next day, flashes of hope intertwined with shadows of doubt. Could this be the lifeline I so desperately needed? Or was it a mere mirage, another cruel reminder that the world was far more brutal than I had imagined? I spent the entire night restless, tossing in bed, that single message engulfing my thoughts. My mind replayed every moment leading to my downfall, every slip, every misstep. Could the past be redeemed? When morning light broke, casting a golden glow through my window, I knew I had to confront this chance, even if it terrified me. As I opened the door to meet my mentor, the weight of possibility hung heavily upon me. I had taken steps toward my own resurrection, yet there was an underlying fear, one that was almost suffocating. What if this moment led to something beyond redemption? What if uncovering the truth about my past laid bare secrets that would shatter whatever fragile hope I had built? Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward, knowing that every step could either be the beginning of something new or the culmination of all my fears. The door creaked shut behind me, echoing like a ticking clock, leaving me standing on the precipice between despair and hope, a singular moment suspended in time. The air outside felt electric, charged with a blend of morning dew and the relentless buzzing of my anxious thoughts. Each step toward the cafe where I was to meet my mentor felt laborious, as if I was wading through molasses. I recalled the many times I had sought his counsel, confident in his ability to steer me through life's complexity. But today, his presence felt more like a noose tightening around my neck, an acknowledgement of my failures. Arriving at the cafe, I took a moment to steady myself, inhaling deeply the bold aroma of coffee, the clattering of cups and laughter momentarily lifting the weight from my shoulders. Yet, as I entered and spotted him seated in a corner, the buoyant warmth faded. He was the same man I remembered, sharp, astute, with a glint in his eye that once promised resolve and wisdom. But now, he appeared somewhat diminished, as if my struggles had cast a shadow over him too. Thank you for agreeing to meet, I offered, forcing a smile that felt foreign on my face. His eyes softened, but I could still see the intensity behind them, a flicker of urgency. I believe you have the potential to come back from this. I wouldn't reach out otherwise, he replied, gesturing for me to sit. The way he looked at me, a mixture of disappointment and determination, felt like a blade cutting through my carefully constructed facade. What I've had to face, I started, but the words stuck in my throat, the vulnerability of the truth painfully palpable. He nodded, as if sensing my hesitation. You're not the first to experience a fall from grace. But it's how you rise that defines you. Let's discuss your current projects. As we transitioned into strategy, I felt a flicker of anticipation mixed with apprehension. I shared the stories of the small businesses I had begun to support. Their dreams intertwined with my own, each success feeding the flickering light of hope within me. My mentor listened intently but often interrupted with practical suggestions, guiding me with a rigor that reminded me of the urgency I needed to resurrect my own aspirations. Hope began to creep back in, tempered with the understanding that the path forward would not be easy. Yet, just as I felt I was about to regain my footing, my phone vibrated violently against the tab, an ominous reminder of the storm still swirling around my professional life. The screen lit up with messages from investors, reminders of broken promises and shattered trust. The enormity of my situation crashed over me like a rogue wave, pulling me under once more. Is everything all right? My mentor asked, his voice threading through the chaos in my mind. I hesitated, torn between the impulse to explain the depths of my turmoil and the instinct to protect the flicker of potential that had begun to emerge. Instead, I offered a vague half-smile, brushing it off as just business. Before he could press further, a well-dressed man entered the cafe, his presence commanding attention. I had seen him at networking events, a player in the very world I thought I had lost. But now, I squirmed in my seat, certain that his penetrating gaze was assessing my downfall. Thankfully, he passed quickly, but not before our eyes met, a collision of recognition weighty with unspoken judgments. "Looks like you're not the only one who's been keeping things low-key," my mentor murmured, catching my unease. "It's tough out there, but that doesn't mean all hope is lost. No, I murmured, trying to enforce the conviction in my voice. But every reminder can feel like a punch to the gut. Just as I began to settle back into our conversation, a devastating notification chimed through my phone. My hands trembled slightly as I looked down. A news alert flashed across the screen: prominent tech entrepreneur embroiled in scandal, financial collapse imminent. My heart dropped as the name materialized, the business rival I once knew whose downfall I had naively wished to avoid. This revelation came with an undeniable connection. My mentor's eyebrows knitted together, tension radiating from his body as he leaned forward. "Is this?" I could only nod, my heart hammering with a growing sense of dread. He was my partner once. We built dreams together, and now, this, and just like that, I felt the ground shifting beneath my feet. If this entrepreneur was fighting his own battle against ruin, what ripple effects could it have on my life? How deeply were our fates intertwined? What if this scandal becomes public? Will it drag you down with it? He asked, concern lining his voice. My breath caught in my throat, realization dawning. Could this be another chance for me to pick myself up, to lean into this shared chaos and carve out a new path? Or was it simply another plunge into despair? The dichotomy beckoned, the choice between resilience and surrender laying bare before me. Suddenly, I felt a stirring deep within, a desire not just to survive through this storm but to cling fiercely to hope, to find resilience despite the odds. But just as I began to voice this impulse, my phone buzzed again, startling me. Before I could look, my mentor's hand came down on my wrist, holding me steady. "Don't let it control you. Whatever this leads to, remember there's always a way through. We'll figure this out together." His voice was steady, but the moment snapped as the phone flew from my hands, hitting the ground with a sickening thud. The world felt dizzying, as if everything I had built was on the verge of unraveling again. My heart raced, battling between hope and fear, and the confrontation with the abyss felt all the more profound. What awaited on the other side of that screen? A new opportunity or another crushing blow? I had no way to prepare for the truth that was about to spill, nor for the secrets that lingered, waiting to unleash themselves upon my fragile hope. The shadows of the cafe swirled around me, each passing moment thickening with uncertainty. My fingers brushed against the cracked screen of my phone, the shattered image reflecting a life fraying at the edges. My mentor's grip on my wrist was a tether, grounding me even as wave after wave of dread rolled through my chest. "What's next?" I managed to whisper, more to the universe than to him. Silence hung heavy, pierced only by the clinking of cups and the hum of casual conversation that felt worlds away from my turmoil. The world outside pressed against the glass, vibrant and oblivious, while I remained entangled in the chaos of my own making. "Before we concern ourselves with rumors and murmurings, let's focus on what you can control," my mentor said, his resolve a balm against the panic rising within me. "Have you reached out to your contacts? To anyone who may help you navigate this?" The simple question caught me off guard. Reaching out felt like standing on the precipice of an abyss, unsure if it was wise to take the leap. My connections had been strained, eroded by the very failures that haunted me. Yet, pull them together I must. I just needed to gather the courage to pick up the phone. "I'll try," I replied, though my voice wavered, a fragile promise hanging in the air. With a newfound purpose igniting within me, I opened my messages and scrolled through names. Each contact bore a reminder of what I stood to lose, but each could also be a lifeline. Just as I was about to reach out to an old friend, the cafe door swung open violently, and in stepped a young woman drenched in a downpour of rain, her cheeks flushed with exertion. She scanned the cafe, her gaze locking onto mine, and a flicker of recognition ignited between us. It was Clary, an old colleague whose dream had crumbled alongside mine. In that brief moment, the network of fraught connections transformed into a bridgy glimmer of kinship amidst the wreckage. She approached, the tension in her posture evident. "Do you have a moment?" she asked, urgency threading through her words. Without waiting for my response, she slid into the seat across from me, her eyes darting between my mentor and me. "I heard about the fallout. I thought it was just you, but then I noticed the news about Ethan. It's been hard on all of us, hasn't it?" Her words landed like a gentle anchor. I grasped the fleeting hope she offered. We were not alone in this. "Yes," I replied, feeling the weight of shared struggles begin to lift. "It's like we're all caught in a storm together, that's one way to put it," she said, a small smile bubbling to the surface, tinged with sadness. "But hear me out. We have ideas, plans that could turn this whole mess into an opportunity. If we collaborate, pooling our resources, we might just find a way through." "Collaboration?" my mentor interjected, skepticism etched in his features. "You mean to involve fewer players than you already have?" "Now is not the time for scattered thoughts." Claire's expression wavered but then solidified with determination. "No, it's not scattering, it's binding together those of us who've faced setbacks. We can offer each other stability, fresh ideas, and insight that could open doors we thought were closed. Besides, we have far more potential together." The hopefulness in her words, juxtaposed against the hollow ache in my gut, battled for dominance. Could we truly rise from this shared devastation, transformed into something stronger? The doubt flickered in my mind, dancing perilously close to despair. Yet her passion glimmered, igniting a flicker of courage I believed had long extinguished. I said suddenly, clarity pounding within me. "Let's plan something." "Something my mentor observed, taking a moment before allowing a hesitant smile to break through his stoic demeanor. "If you're willing to build back up, I will support you. But remember, no half measures." A sense of teamwork took root, one that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. But before we could launch into the details, my phone buzzed relentlessly once more, the screen flashing ominously under the table. "Let me just check this," I said, my heart racing. As the message loaded, a knot formed in my stomach. It was an email from my legal counsel. "We need to discuss the ramifications of the situation with Ethan. There may be implications you're unaware of." I exhaled sharply, realizing the sand beneath my newfound resolve was shifting again. "What do they mean?" "Implications?" Claire and my mentor leaned in, eyes wide with concern, but the cliff of uncertainty had my breath quickening. The path forward began to flicker and blur, and I could feel the walls closing in as the stakes amplified. "Let's not dwell on that now," my mentor urged, but his voice drifted into the background as I stared at the message, the words spiraling into a vortex of doubt and fear. Was this the moment it all slipped away again? Every ounce of progress I thought I had reclaimed hung in precarious balance, and as the tension enveloped us, I felt myself crumbling once more, weighed down by the tumult of what awaited. What hidden truths lay waiting, cloaked in uncertainty? I looked to my mentor and then to Claire, both their faces overshadowed by the looming reality this was far from over, and the fight had just begun. The rain against the cafe windows intensified, seeming to echo the turmoil swirling inside me. My fingers trembled slightly as I scrolled back through the email, searching for any hint or solace that might allay the gnawing unease. Instead, the words morphed into shadows that danced in my mind, wrapping around my thoughts until clarity seemed a distant memory. "I need a moment," I murmured, rising abruptly from the table, the chairs scraping across the tiled floor as I stumbled toward the restroom. Each step felt heavy with dread, the world narrowing until it comprised only of that fluorescent-lit space and my Iona face masked in worry, a spirit frayed and fragile. Leaning against the cold sink, I splashed water on my face, trying to shake free the weight that had settled in my chest. The thought of my career crashing down, magnified by the uncertainty surrounding Ethan and his abrupt downfall, loomed large. Would I be next? The feeling was suffocating. Just as I turned to leave, my phone vibrated again, this time an insistent ring that pulled me back into the chaos. A familiar name flashed across the screen, Danny, the first friend I'd pushed away when everything had begun to unravel. I hesitated, then pressed the button to answer. "Hey," Danny's voice came through, tentative but warm, filled with a kindness I had missed. I saw what was happening. I just wanted to check on you. The sincerity in his tone melted some of the icy grip on my heart. I don't know if I'm okay, honestly. My voice broke, the confession breaking the dam of composure I had held tightly. Let's talk, he replied, a steadiness in his voice that pierced the haze around me. I mean it. We can grab a drink later? Or something? Just let me know what you need. You don't have to go through this alone anymore. That I could hear the honesty, the shoulder he was offering, and my heart fluttered with the tiniest flicker of hope. Maybe this was the lifeline I needed. Yeah, I'd like that, I managed to say, feeling a small light pierce through the storm clouds. After I hung up, I returned to the table, my heart still battling the mix of emotions. Claire and my mentor were deep in conversation, the latter's frown hinting that the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on him. That I am sorry, I began, resuming my seat. That was Danny. He wants to meet up. Good, Claire said, her relief evident. You'll need support. We all will. My mentor's brow furrowed, but he nodded slowly. Strength in numbers is crucial at this juncture. Your willingness to reconnect will only help solidify your foundation. As we began to discuss our next steps, the air of camaraderie hung around us like a much-needed blanket, yet the towering uncertainty loomed just beyond my grasp. Ideas began to flow, weaving narratives of resilience and joint effort, but beneath the surface, the pulsing question of my future thrummed like a persistent heartbeat. And then, with every bit of hope we amassed, the world turned again. A sharp ringing cut through the ambience, and my phone buzzed with a notification, a news alert. It flashed across the screen, as if mocking my fragile fortress of determination. Ethan Green's enterprise faces liquidation due to undisclosed mismanagement. Investors pull funding. The color drained from my face as I looked from the screen to my mentor and Claire. Their expressions shifted from hope to horror, mirroring the shock clenching in my gut. The news spread faster than I could breathe, swallowing the air and hope we had tentatively nurtured mere moments ago. The cafe felt narrower, the ceiling pressing down as the reality hit. This wasn't just about Ethan anymore. The web of his actions threatened to ensnare me, too. The abyss had grown wider, and my footing more precarious. The world, once buzzing with the possibility of collaboration, now shrank into a space filled with betrayal and dread. That I need to go, I whispered, feeling the walls closing in again. Panic surged, and I stood to leave, but my mentor reached out, gripping my wrist. Wait, he said, his voice low but firm. We can maneuver this. There's always a way out. You survived the worst already. Not if this is just the beginning, I replied, the insight chilling me. What if it's all for nothing? As I uttered the words, I felt a shifting beneath me, as if the very foundations of reality were quaking, preparing to launch me further into uncertainty. And just like that, amidst the flickering candlelight and soft murmurs, I realized I was standing not only on the edge but staring down into an unexpected revelation. What if my connection to Ethan was deeper than I knew? What if it tied me irrevocably to his fate? The fear twisted tight in my chest, a revelation I wasn't prepared for, yet one that could change everything. How long could I hide from the truths waiting to be uncovered? And as Claire and my mentor looked on, concern etched into their faces, I knew the next move would not be mine alone to decide. The stakes had been raised once more, pulling me back against the vortex of chaos that threatened to consume everything I had fought to rebuild. The cafe door chimed softly as I stepped outside into the rain, the wind tugging at my clothes as if urging me to keep moving. I had woven a fragile tapestry of hope, only to see it unravel at my fingertips. Panic surged within me, an uncontrollable current drawing me deeper into questions I had tried to evade. What if my connection to Ethan was as entangled as our professional lives had once been? The fear settled heavily, a reminder of how intertwined our fates had become. That I pulled my collar tight against the downpour and began walking, each step echoing the cacophony of my thoughts. Danny's offer lingered like a light in the fog. I had shut him out for so long, convinced I needed to fight my battles alone. But as the chill seeped into my bones, I recognized that isolation had only fed my fears. I didn't have all the answers, nor did I need to. The streetlights shimmered in puddles, reflections of the possibility I could let someone help me find a way forward. Within minutes, I spotted a familiar silhouette leaning against a lamppost, arms crossed, a nervous energy pulsating even through the night. It was Danny, his brow furrowed, visibly worried. "Hey," he said as I approached, his voice rising slightly over the rain. "You okay?" I forced a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes and shrugged, trying to push down the tumult within. "I came as soon as I could." Without another word, Danny stepped forward and enveloped me in a warm embrace. The weight I had carried felt a little lighter in that moment, reminding me through the chaos that I wasn't alone. We found a nearby bar, a shelter from the rain and the storms brewing in our lives. The atmosphere buzzed with muffled conversation and clinking glasses, a stark contrast to the tumult swirling inside me. As we settled into a booth, Danny leaned forward and searched my face. "You don't have to act tough. I get it. This is hard. I am scared," I confessed, pouring out the words that had been backed into a corner for too long. "What if the damage is beyond repair? What if I lose everything?" A silence stretched between us, a tender acknowledgement of the fears we both shared. "The only thing you stand to lose is the idea that you have to go it alone." His sincerity anchored me momentarily, grounding me in the present despite the tempest behind us. Just as I began to find comfort in his words, a shadow flitted through my mind, a flicker of the fresh anguish from earlier. I took a deep breath, feeling the air fill my lungs, yet it only made the weight heavier. What if Ethan did this on purpose? What if he knew what would happen but didn't care? Danny shook his head. "That's a dangerous thought. Maybe you should focus on what brings you joy, those things that remind you what you're fighting for, not just what you're losing." His words spiraled through the maze of panic, nudging me toward clarity. I thought of the projects I loved, the moments spent laughing with Claire and my mentor, the thrill of crafting ideas that could inspire others. Yet beneath that, the fear clawed at my resolve, pulling me back to Ethan, the person who had once been my ally, now shadowy and threatening. As we spoke, I noticed a couple at the bar, engaged in a heated discussion that seemed to pull the attention of the entire room as voices grew louder. A fragment of their conversation penetrated the soft hum of background noise: sabotage, betrayal. "I can't believe he would do that to us." My breath hitched. This wasn't merely a conversation about a failed deal, it echoed the fear hovering over my life. It felt like the universe was weaving a cautionary tale just for me, a reminder of the precarious line I walked between trust and treachery. "What's wrong?" Danny asked, his brow furrowing in concern. I think there's more to this than I realized." My voice faltered, the nuance thick in the air. "I need to know what Ethan really did, then let's find out together," Danny urged, a quiet determination underlying his tone. Light flickered behind his eyes, promising partnership even in the shrouded uncertainty. With that, a sense of resilience began to blossom in the pit of my stomach. Suddenly, the mission didn't feel like a burden, it felt like a shared quest. If I could confront the ghosts of my past, together we might stave off the encroaching darkness. Yet as I started to feel a flicker of hope ignite, my phone buzzed in my pocket, dispelling the warmth like a cold wind. I pulled it out, my pulse hitching at the unknown number flashing on the screen. As I answered, a tightness clutched at my throat. "Is this Mia? You need to know something about Ethan," a shaky voice crackled through the line. My heart raced, anticipation wrapping around me, bracing for the unraveling storm. Could this be the revelation I dreaded? Would it tether me further to the chaos, or could it finally cut the strings? Each word was a promise of answers and perhaps more confusion. I braced myself, my breath hitching as a new wave of uncertainty drew closer. What awaited on the other end of the line could shift my path once more, and how exactly would I navigate through yet another storm? The voice on the phone trembled, wavering like the distant thunder echoing outside. "Mia, listen carefully. I can't tell you who I am, but Ethan's been involved in something you need to know about. It's bigger than you think." Every instinct inside me screamed to hang up, to shield myself from the cascading waves of information that threatened to drown my already wavering resolve. "What do you mean?" I whispered, urgency lacing my voice. "He's mixed up in deals that aren't just business. There are people involved who won't take kindly to anyone who gets in their way." The voice was cut off abruptly, the silence that followed filled with tension and raw dread. "Hello? What do you mean? Are you still there?" I pressed my phone closer, desperate for clarity, but the line had gone dead. My heart sank, a darker cloud settling in my mind. The hollow of betrayal expanded somewhere deep within, a void I could already feel widening, Danny reached across the table, his eyes searching for mine. Mia, what happened? I shook my head, fighting back the tide of emotions rising within me. It was someone who knew Ethan. They said he's involved in something dangerous. Something that could end badly. Could it be a bluff? He asked cautiously, though the concern in his tone belied the possibility. There are always rumors like this in business, trying to scare people off. And oh, this isn't just about business. It's personal. I felt the ground underneath shift as memories collided with fears. What if he's not who I thought? What if I've been blind to what's really been happening? A heavy silence enveloped us as we absorbed the weight of the revelation, the bar around us fading into a distant hum. The warmth of the booth now felt stifling, as if the walls were closing in, and suddenly I longed to escape into the night. What if this is a sign? Danny urged, brushing a hand through his hair in frustration. What if you need to confront him, Mia? Find out for yourself what's going on instead of waiting to unravel it all from the sidelines. Confronting Ethan felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, teetering on the brink of uncertainty. Yet, a flicker of defiance sparked within me. Instead of running from the storm, maybe it was time to face it head-on. Maybe you're right, I murmured, drawing in a steadying breath. But I don't even know where to start. Danny sat back, considering for a moment. What if we try to dig deeper? I can help you. We can track down this caller, find out what they know. Hope fluttered in my chest, ignited by the small act of solidarity. Okay, I said, the resolve slowly reweaving itself around my spine. We can do that together. Just as we began to plot a course of action, my phone buzzed again, startling me. My heart raced as I checked the screen, only to find a message from an unknown contact that I advise you to be careful. Ethan isn't who you think he is. Meet me at the old warehouse at 9 p.m. tonight if you want the truth. That I showed Danny the message, and he raised an eyebrow, uncertainty pooling in his gaze. This doesn't feel right. It could be a trap, yet curiosity and fear wrestled for dominance within me. A part of me recoiled at the thought of going, risking more than I was already teetering on losing. But another part, the part that had been silenced for so long, screamed for answers, insisting that I couldn't back away now. Maybe it's a chance to get answers about Ethan. To put the pieces together, I said, looking into Danny's eyes for support. That he exhaled heavily, weighing the consequences. If we go together. But promise me you'll be careful. That I promise, I replied, the sincerity in my voice quiet but firm. As we finished our drinks, the rain outside intensified, a harbinger for the tempest forming. The possibility of confrontation loomed closer in the shadows, swathed in both dread and exhilaration. I was stepping into a world not just filled with truths but with hidden threats that twisted between the lines I had lived within for so long. When we stood outside in the downpour once more, the air electrified with uncertainty, I could almost sense the ground shifting beneath my feet. I had no idea where this path would lead us, but as long as I had Danny by my side, there was a flicker of hope to hold on to. There was no turning back now. With a heart pounding with anticipation and fear, I whispered to the stormy night, this will change everything. And as we moved toward the old warehouse, I could feel the weight of secrets stirring, daring us to uncover whatever lay hidden in the dark. Little did I know, the revelation waiting for us there would send shockwaves through everything I thought I knew. The rain drummed against the pavement like a war cry, the sound of cacophony rising with every step we took towards the warehouse. Shadows swallowed the world around us, each flicker of the streetlight warped by the storm's ferocity. It felt as if the very air was charged with the weight of unspoken truths, each droplet a messenger of fate. My heart raced, not just from the looming confrontation but from the knowledge that whatever we uncovered tonight would alter the course of my life forever. Are you sure you want to do this? Danny's voice broke through the howling wind, grounding me for a moment. I turned to him, his face illuminated fleetingly in the ambient glow of passing headlights. That I can't keep waiting, I answered, my voice steadier than I felt. The unknown feels worse than facing whatever Ethan's hiding. As we neared the old, crumbling structure, anxiety coiled tighter in my chest. Memories of laughter and stolen glances with Ethan flashed in my mind. The moments that had painted our relationship in shades of love and trust now seemed tragically naive, like brushstrokes on a canvas warped by time. The warehouse loomed before us, an ominous relic, its windows dark and uninviting. I could feel Danny's protective aura settle intimately between us. Standing in the brazen downpour, he glanced at me, concern etched into the lines of his brow. "We're in this together, right?" "Together," I confirmed, drawing strength from the solidarity we had cultivated amidst chaos. We stepped inside, and the damp air was heavy with the scent of rust and decay, mingled with something else, fear. Dim light flickered ahead, casting long shadows. With every step deeper into the belly of the beast, the stakes crescendoed until I felt as though the very walls were closing in. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, the outline unmistakable even in the low light. "Mia," the voice called out, sharp and familiar. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized the silhouette of one of Ethan's associates, someone I had seen at countless gatherings, a man whose presence had always made me feel like I belonged. "Marcus?" I blinked through the shadows, disbelief morphing into focus as he stepped closer. "What are you doing here? Things have changed," he replied, his eyes darting nervously to Danny and back to me. "You shouldn't be here. This is dangerous. What do you know about Ethan?" My voice was edged with desperation, the barrier between us dissolving in light of this new encounter. "I've received threats. He's involved in something huge." Marcus hesitated, glancing back as if he feared the darkness might come alive and swallow him whole. "I can't talk here. They're watching." Danny's presence intensified beside me, a silent guardian as he sized up the situation. "Who is they?" he asked sharply, framing the stakes like a blade ready to cut through the tension. A flicker of movement pulled my attention to a far corner of the warehouse. A group of shadowy figures loomed, their intentions obscured. My heart sank. "Were they here for us?" "Let's move," Marcus urged, his voice hushed. He beckoned us to follow him further into the depths of the building. As we navigated the labyrinth of rusted machinery and crates, a gnawing dread took root. I couldn't shake the feeling that this place was not what it appeared to be. Every echoing footstep reverberated like a warning. Finally, we found a small room obscured by thick shadows, the air dense with anticipation. "You need to know the truth about Ethan," Marcus said as he closed the door behind us. "He's involved in something far darker than you realize. And you're in danger just by being connected to him." "What do you mean?" The threads of fear turned into a tapestry woven with curiosity and foreboding. "What's going on? I wish I could tell you everything, but you have to understand, there are people who will do anything to protect their investments. Ethan isn't just a businessman, he's entangled in a web that reaches far beyond the city, and the stakes are more than just financial. Lives are at play, Mia. And if he thinks you're a liability," his voice trailed off, leaving a cold weight in the air. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, this time a call. My heart raced as I glanced at the screen. Unknown caller. "It could be Ethan," I whispered, uncertainty clawing at my throat. The familiarity of his voice loomed in my mind, every memory piercing through like a bittersweet blade. "Don't answer it," Danny urged, his gaze locked onto the door, the sense of turbulence swelling, but as I hesitated, the calling tone persisted, piercing the tension. Something deep within me compelled me to answer, a yearning magnified by fear and hope streaming through my veins. That I took a deep breath, each word from the depths of my heart urging wisdom against reckless bravery. "I have to know. No, Mia." Danny's voice was a fierce whip I barely heard as I pressed the green button to answer the unknown. "Ethan?" I breathed into the phone, my heart drumming chaos in my chest. "Mia, you shouldn't have gone there." His voice was low, threaded with a sense of urgency but also something darker. "You're in danger. You need to leave now." Before I could respond, the line clicked, and the call ended abruptly. The room spun, the shadows now feeling more menacing. It was as if I had unlocked a door to a nightmarish reality. "What's happening?" Danny asked, his voice tinged with protective desperation as he instinctively stepped closer. "I don't know," I whispered, holding on to Marcus's words like a lifeline. "But we need to get out of here." Yet even as I spoke, a part of me wondered what truth lay tangled within the web Ethan had spun. The possibility of what I might find or lose was overshadowed only by the relentless pulse of fear drumming in my chest. As we hurried back towards the exit, I could have sworn I heard footsteps behind us, echoing like the shadows rushing at our heels. The night was swallowing us whole, and I realized this was just the beginning of my descent into the truth of Ethan's world. What awaited us outside felt like an abyss, but behind us lay secrets that could tear apart not just our lives, but the very fabric of everything we believed in. I could only hope that whatever revelations awaited us would not come with a cost too great to bear. The dim light of the warehouse flickered and danced as we retraced our steps, my heart racing with each hurried footfall. Danny remained close, his presence a bulwark against the insidious tendrils of fear creeping into my mind. "Stay focused, Mia," he urged, his voice a steady anchor, but how could I focus when my thoughts were a tempest of confusion and dread? Ethan's voice echoed hauntingly in my ears, each word wrapping around my heart like barbed wire. I couldn't decipher if he genuinely wanted to protect me or if this was merely another breadcrumb in a sinister game he was playing. Marcus led the way, urgency driving his movements. "We need to get you out of here now," he insisted, glancing anxiously over his shoulder. The shadows seemed to pulse ominously around us, as if the darkness itself had sent out a warning that I was fighting my instincts, battling against the desire to turn back and extract answers from the veiled truths of my past with Ethan. What will happen if I just confront him? "Maybe he can explain," I said, my voice trembling despite my efforts to sound brave. Marcus shook his head vehemently. "No, he won't explain, Mia. He'll do whatever it takes to keep his empire afloat, even if it means harming those connected to him. You've already crossed a line by coming here, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still missing something crucial. Every ounce of me craved clarity. There has to be a way to make him see reason. I can't just walk away without understanding," I replied, desperation leaking through my normally composed facade. "Understanding can come at a cost." Danny's words hung heavily in the air, the gravity of them grounding me. He was right. I could sense that the deeper I delved into Ethan's world, the more peril I invited. We approached the exit, but the doorway felt miles away, a chasm filled with unseen dangers. Just as we reached the threshold, a muffled sound erupted from behind us. My blood ran cold as I turned to see a tall figure emerging from the shadows, blocking our escape. Panic surged, and my instincts screamed for flight. Going somewhere? The voice was chillingly familiar, a serpent slipping into the light. It was Ethan's right-hand man, Anton, his gaze fixed on me like prey. "Marcus," I whispered, uncertainty seeping into my resolve. "What do we do? Just keep moving?" He stepped forward, ready to confront the threat, but my mind spiraled with images of Ethan, his smile, his laugh, the moments that had once felt safe. They were ghosts now, and with each heartbeat, I felt those memories fraying at the seams. Suddenly, Anton's attention shifted to me, a sly smile creeping across his face. "He knew you'd come here, you know. Always thought you'd be the one to figure things out. Yet here you are, in over your head," he taunted. "You don't know what you're talking about," I shot back, every ounce of pride and defiance coiling within me. "What do you want? Weren't you listening?" He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "What we want is to protect our interests, not that you'd understand what that really means. But then again, we've always underestimated you, haven't we?" In that instant, a surge of courage ignited within me. Perhaps he underestimated the power of determination boiling in my veins, a resilience that had been forged in fire that we had to get past Anton. I glanced at Danny, and his eyes mirrored my resolve. Together, we could suddenly. A sound echoed from deeper within the warehouse, a noise that sent a ripple of unease through the already thick air. A door slamming, followed by stern voices approaching. "We're not alone," my heart raced as a wave of urgency surged through me. "Move!" Marcus shouted, shoving me towards the door as chaos edged nearer. But Anton was quicker, placing himself squarely in front of my escape path, a predator cornering its prey. Unbidden, I channeled all my fear into one bold action. I charged for the exit, driven by adrenaline, ready to plunge into the unknown outside. Just as I lunged past Anton with desperate force, a hand shot out, gripping my wrist with terrifying strength. "Let her go." Danny's voice thundered as he instinctively lunged forward, the raw power of his intent reverberating through the heavy air. But before I could even catch my breath, Anton's grip tightened, pulling me back. "She's not going anywhere with you," he snarled. The room spun. A million thoughts chased themselves through my mind. If this wasn't the moment I stood to lose everything, I didn't know what was. I could feel the weight of my choices clawing at my throat, suffocating my spirit. "Let her go." Danny shouted a second time, and an electric crackle of determination surged between us, igniting my spirit. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was fighting for freedom, the power to reclaim my own narrative, but just as hope walked hand in hand with despair, I felt a shaking realization. This confrontation wasn't just about Ethan or Anton. There were dark forces moving around us, molding into an intricate web of deceit and potential violence that felt insurmountable. Suddenly, behind Anton, the shadows shifted again, and a figure stepped for the new menace revealed. Panic gripped me as my breath caught in the cold air like a gasp. It was yet another associate of Ethan's, and behind him lurked even more companions. We were trapped, panic pounding in my ears like a war drum. In an instant, my fears melded with reality, connecting the dots of a looming threat I had only brushed against until now. As the darkness tightened its grip, I braced myself for whatever storm was about to descend, knowing the fight for my life and the truth had only just ignited. The chaos around me pulsed like a heartbeat, thick with the tension of uncertain fates. I struggled against Anton's grip, the coldness of his sneer brushing against my arm like ice. The reality of the moment crashed over me, like a wave threatening to pull me under a confluence of choices spiraling dangerously close to oblivion. Danny's fierce resolve wrapped around me like a protective cloak, even as the walls closed in. "Just let her go, Anton." Danny's voice boomed again, sounding more determined than desperate, building a shield of courage against the shadows ever creeping closer, but Anton chuckled, a sound devoid of empathy, one filled with smugness that made my stomach turn. "You really don't understand what's at stake, do you? You've already involved yourselves in something you can't escape." The disdain in his tone felt like a physical blow. For a moment, I stood frozen, fear coursing through my veins like poison. I felt as though my breath was being siphoned from me, each second ticking by, weighed down by the gravity of my choices. Ethan had been a figment of my life. An enigma cloaked in charm and ambition. Now, here I was, staring down the depths of his world, the one I unknowingly stepped into, armed with nothing but hope and the trust of a man who might be just as lost. Thrusting your head into the lion's den was a bold move, but it will be your downfall. Anton continued, leaning against the wall, reinforcing his hold on me like a dog to its bone. I could feel my heart pounding in sync with the storm outside, a reminder that freedom was just beyond that door, yet I couldn't grasp it. Time slowed, and amidst the darkness and tumult, something snapped within me. A clarity emerged, one profound and illuminating. This wasn't merely about seeking revenge or answers anymore. It was a chance not just to confront Ethan, but to reclaim my narrative, every shattered dream, every hurried misstep. I thought of the feathers of resilience that had started to weave their way back into my life, reminding me that I was not here to hide in shadows but to stand tall, illuminated by my truth. With newfound power coursing through me, I turned to Danny, his fierce visage etched with fierce loyalty. "Together," I whispered, and in that fleeting moment, we locked eyes, a spark lit between us. "Always," he breathed back, grounding me against the current of uncertainty, summoning every ounce of strength and determination swirling inside me. I yanked my arm free from Anton's grip and darted toward the door, propelled by a rush of adrenaline. Just as I reached it, everything altered. Another figure stepped into the light, blocking our way, the real face of the danger we had underestimated. "Ethan," I breathed, feeling a strange mix of longing and fear all at once. That he looked different, more worn, shadows painting his features with heavy strokes. But beneath him lay a fissure of something dark, a revelation of his true self that sent a thrill of unease racing down my spine. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice more of a growl than a greeting. "Finding the truth," I shouted, drawing on the support embodied in Danny's presence beside me. This wasn't merely about uncovering Ethan's betrayal. This was a reclamation of everything I had lost, everything I had dared to build again. Ethan's eyes flickered with recognition, but it was tainted with something that seemed like fear. "You shouldn't have come here. There are things you don't understand, things that could cost you everything." "I may not understand everything," I replied, thrusting back against the rising tide of his accusations, "but I refuse to be a pawn in your game any longer. The people I care about won't suffer because of your choices. You think you can just hide in this web of deceit and expect me to cower?" In that moment, clarity cut through the frantic darkness. It was not just Ethan I was confronting, but the very chains I had let bind me for too long. I felt the collective force of all those I had lost and the bravery I had welcomed back flood my spirit, igniting the fire of resolve within me. Danny stepped forward, positioning himself protectively beside me with an energy I had grown to rely on. "We want answers, Ethan. You owe her that much. You both shouldn't be here," Ethan warned, a brooding quality crossing his features. But this time, his voice trembled slightly, as if rattled by the presence of my defiance coupled with Danny's unwavering support. Yet even as he spoke, another sound emerged, a fluttering presence brushing through the shadows, heavy with foreboding. Just then, out of the dark, 2 more men appeared. The tension cracked like thunder. I recognized one of them immediately, a fearsome figure. "Seems you've outstayed your welcome," he growled, casting his eyes over Danny and me with a predatory glimmer. In that moment, I felt every ounce of confidence I had mustered threaten to shatter, but as I glanced back towards Danny, I could see the small flicker of hope igniting behind his eyes, a shared understanding of strength lying between us. The shadows gathered, ominous and tumultuous. The fight wasn't just about me anymore, but about surviving this moment, awaking from the illusion I had spiraled into. "Run!" Danny yelled, breaking the spell of fear wrapping around us. Instinct kicked in, and I pivoted back toward the corridor we had just traversed, my heart racing at the thought of escape. But just as we turned to flee, Ethan made a desperate move, his hand gripping my wrist again with a surprising urgency. "Mia, wait." I faltered, torn between the past I had cherished and the danger that loomed ahead. His eyes bore into mine, suddenly vulnerable amid the Chow San unexpected flicker of sincerity, pleading for understanding. Could he still hold fragments of concern amidst the disarray? "Please, don't do this. You're getting in deeper than you know," he implored, his grip loosening ever so slightly. And in that instance, a million memories collided, tangled threads of laughter and plans, dreams woven into shared moments now illuminated by urgency. The man I had once admired stood before me, but now cast in an unforgiving light. "But you made those choices, Ethan. You chose to step into this abyss." Before I could say anything more, Anton lunged forward, a warning in his eyes, and I felt the seconds piling up, heavy, salvation and choice trying to break through. Then I remembered Amelia's words, the simplicity of hope. A sturdy anchor amidst the storm. I inhaled deeply, gathering every ounce of my newfound strength. "This ends tonight. You'll not drag me down with you." With a force of will igniting my spirit, I jerked free of Ethan's lingering grasp and collided full force into the flow of chaos. I didn't know if it was too late or if I could thrive beyond the pandemonium, but this was my time to reclaim the narrative for myself. With a thrust of will, I barreled through the door and out into the downpour, feeling the weight of the storm steadfast above, intermingling with both relief and exposure. Connor's orders followed us closely, the echoes of the past darkening the alleyways in pursuit of the light I had dared to chase, but the night had opened the gates of clarity, and in that moment, the struggle ceased to paralyze me. The truth was a wild thing, but it was mine. Through the uncertainty, I had discovered allies amid betrayal, a choice to breathe life where shadows had claimed dominion. With Danny's hand firmly gripping mine, we surged toward the promise that lay beyond. The rain poured down around us, a baptismal cleansing against the detritus of despair and despair. As we put distance between us and the darkness, my heart thundered, chasing dreams anew. This wasn't just a collision with fate but a resurrection from the ashes, a pledge to forge a new path. My life had become a narrative reclaimed, and as I looked toward the horizon, I knew that shifting the tides of my legacy was possible, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I smiled through the rain's embrace, knowing that every ordeal had brought me here standing taller, braver, as the storms cleared behind me, propelling me toward a future not just waiting to be shaped, but one that offered me the power to forge it in my own image. So let the shadows come. Let them try to take me down. Now, with each heartbeat, I would rise anew, not just for myself, but for the echoes of all who had walked this path before me. They would not be forgotten, that I would not be forgotten. In that moment of realization, I whispered into the night, "I am no longer afraid." With Danny beside me, we stepped forward into an uncertain world, ready to greet its challenges and seize the sun that would soon break through the storm.